Welcome to the final part of the house walkthrough video. Here I'll show you how I used my 3D model to create this image. This video will benefit mainly Blender users, but the techniques can be applicable to users of any other 3D software, I think. So we now start to create materials for each component of our house. First I set an image texture for the walls, so I use a texture which I obtained from cgtextures.com. And then I go into the edit mode and I find that my UV unwrapping has stuffed up for some reason. So I have to do this again. So what I need to do is I need to select all the front faces that I can see. That'll be facing the wall, that'll be facing the camera. So just need to make sure that the side isn't selected, so I deselect that. And then we project from view, so we can our UV mapping on the right side of the UV image editor shows our projected image, and then we load in our image. I chose a plank wood because that's what it was in the reference image, but you can obviously choose something like brick or concrete. Any will work fine, I think. And then I rearrange the UV map so that it looks good from the 3D viewpoint. I create a new material just called white, and I find that I don't need to add that plank texture to that roof, the faces over here, because it looks kind of weird. So I just select those roof, that thickness side, and then a thickness face, I don't know what's it called, and just make it white because it really is unnecessary. I hid the other faces because they're sort of getting in the way, and I applied the mirror modifier. At this point I'm struggling to find where the remaining face is, and I think it's because I hid. At this point I think I found out what the problem was, and I just have to keep selecting. I should have actually done this earlier, so this is actually my bad. Yep, so now I'll go to each side of the house and do the same thing. Select the faces, project from view, and yeah, basically scale so that it looks good from 3D point of view. I'll now select the front of the house and then rotate and then scale so that it looks right. Oh, I accidentally scaled the 3D model. Alright, so once we're happy with that, we can pretty much move on from there. Oh, I need to also set that thickness of the roof to be also white. But not before I work on the garage side. And here the UV mapping seems to have stuffed up as well, so I go again to the side view and do the same project from view and then scale out just to fix that problem up. Same as the back and the front. And that seems to solve the problem quite well. I know I should be taking more care and actually looking properly if the vertices have lined up. I mean, if the planks have lined up with the corners, but I'm kind of rushing this, and since it is low poly, I'm assuming that there won't be much close-up shots on this, so I think I can get away with it. And so it's looking quite good. We're starting to see what the texture of our house is looking like. So now I'm going through the roof and adding that thickness part and changing the material to be just white. So it is a little bit tedious, but I'm sure that problem wouldn't have come if I would have just set the material early on while I was modeling. So now I'll go through the roof model and also use a CG Textures image to obtain the roof texture. And I basically just do the same thing, just project from view and scale so that it looks right in the 3D model. course you can see that some of the texturing is showing, because of the UV mapping that was originally set, is showing the bricks as too big. So we need to go in and scale out the appropriate UV map so that it looks about right. Here we seem to have stumbled across a problem, because I think I'm using the mirror map, not the mirror map, sorry, the mirror modifier. So I need to apply the modifier, and then I did the same project from view thing again. Well, not project from view, I did just unwrap, and it seemed to work fine. And for that window side feature thing, I just gave it a blue diffuse shader. And that's it. So our house is starting to get some textures going through. For the door, I chose a wooden texture, and then I UV unwrap the door as well until it looks just about alright. I realized at this point that I forgot to add a door handle, so I just create a very, very low poly door handle using a sphere and 2 cylinders. I scale the first cylinder down on the y-axis, and then create another cylinder and scale that down fully, and to the point that it looks like a door handle, and then just put them together. And just for the shader, I just add a plain glossy shader, which is like a sort of shiny metal shader, and that's about it. So it's relatively low poly at this point, and yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I then also add a material for the porch, and for this one I just chose a plain concrete shader, bare concrete shader, and just projected that from view and just left that as is. I also chose to also fix the shading on the front side, because it seems to be stretched there for some reason. So I just select those front part and also do the project from view for those front faces, and same as the sides, although it isn't as important because the camera won't really see it, but I just fix it there anyway, and it looks pretty good. I think we can also add a shader for the ground. I just chose a basic grass, but I might later on put actual grass on this. But just to help visualize, it's pretty nice just to put some textured grass on there. And now we add a sunlight. The sunlight basically will do just that, add sun, add light to our scene and make our house visible instead of just staying pitch black. So we put a slightly yellow color and amp strength to about 8. I then add a sky texture and turn down the turbidity to something 2 and increase the strength so it looks like daylight. And yeah, just create the type of lighting that you like. This is basically a default daylight scene, so we can already see that it's looking quite nice. And you can see that the global illumination is also working quite well, because the light there's also light shining through in the shadowy areas as well. So now I'm just adding a material for the poles, giving that sort of painted look. So now I set up a shader for the walls of the house, and basically the shader is comprised of a normal diffuse shader, and I mixed it with a glossy shader, and I add a bump map to both the glossy and the diffuse shader. The bump map is just the same image again, and basically gives that sort of wooden bump effect. which is not very clear with a white wall, but maybe I should have chosen. It's probably more clear if I change the color of the wall. I do the same for the roof, and yeah. So that's it. That's basically it. This is what our house looks like, and that looks pretty neat. So I think that looks great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some grass to our scene, and yep. So just I need to go to edit mode, and I need to create a vertex group called grass. Go into edit mode and subdivide that about 20 times. Now basically I'm going to paint the areas where the grass will grow. So I'm just going to leave the pathway blue and just sort of paint everywhere else where it's visible in the camera. Just going to try to create a typical suburban home. This is just something extra and something that I'm now sort of going into how I created the image scene itself. So to add the grass, I'm using Andrew Price's Grass Essentials, and I actually purchased this before. It's a very good model. You can find it on Andrew Price's website on blenderguru.com. He has the Grass Essentials pack. Basically, there's plenty different grass models and weeds and all these other goodness, grass goodness in it, and yeah, there's all this variety of different grass models that you can use in your scene for free. So, and they're very realistic as well. So these will look almost guaranteed to look great in your Blender scene. So that's basically what I'm doing. Just put it on the grass model and go. That's it. Of course, I need to go in and add some variation, but I guess since I want to make this under an hour, and since this is just for demo purposes, I'm quite happy not doing much variations to it. I'm also going into my earlier scene in Vetri, and I'm grabbing the fence model that I used there. So these are just extra little props to help make my scene look a lot better. And just as a finished touch-up, I'm basically just adding that little pathway that you see cars drive into. And since it looks a little bit too straight, I basically add loops and try to add some curvature to it, just to add a little bit of more visual interest. I do the same for the walkway. It's better to put some kind of design, like a walkway design or something, like those brick pattern. But I don't think I really spent the time doing this because I was sort of in a rush to get this done within the hour. So I'll go into the edit mode, and I just added and call it road, and do the project from view thing again. And to me that seems good enough. So now I pretty much create a shader for the road. So now that we've got a texture in, I create a shader. So this is basically just a diffuse with a bit of bump map, and I'm using the road texture itself to represent the bump map. And add a converter node to basically control the strength of the bump map to half. And when we render our image, that's what we get. The image seems to be okay, but the grass is cutting through the pathway, so we need to fix that up. So I go back to the vertex paint mode again, and I add a weight 0, and I try to clean up the areas where the grass is intersecting with the pathway. But it doesn't seem to be working for some reason, so basically I just shrink the path itself, and for the roadway I just increase the height of the road so that the grass is not really visible. I don't think that's a very good solution. A better solution for me would have been to just delete those vertices where the path was. So with a bit more tweaking and adding in some compositing effects, we then get this image. Not a bad looking house for something that took me under an hour. With a bit more practice and patience, you can create even better houses and maybe even mansions. This house model is free for download and I've supplied a link in the description. It is a low poly model and you can use it for any of your videos or games or whatever. The textures aren't supplied though, as they are from cgtextures.com. Feel free to give me any feedback in the comments below. I know I need to change my microphone. I've been needing to get a newer, higher quality microphone and a webcam for a while now, but I haven't really got myself to doing it, but I will soon. Also, please subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff, and thanks for watching.